Hey everyone, happy Monday, deities. Hope everyone is having a really great day. Definitely appreciate you all taking the time to join us for another edition of Titan Talk. I'm Isiah. Killgoon is joining me today, and Travis is with us as well. Just gonna get right into it. Not gonna really sugarcoat anything. Last week was a really shitty week for everyone here at Titan Forge. Everyone, has really been kind of processing everything, but we didn't want to take an extended break. We wanted to kind of get out in front of the community just because we know you all have a lot of questions. You all are processing as well. I'll just kind of throw it over to Alex to kind of go over everything.
Yeah. I'll just, we're going to spend most of the day taking y'all's questions. It's been rough. Like Isiah said, I put out a tweet. If you haven't seen it, I still use that godforsaken site for some reason. And kind of talked through my feelings. And it's just tough. Right. Like we literally, like right before the show, Dandy just walked in cause he's, kind of dropping off his stuff, and it's really hard. Right. Like a lot of great people that we lost as part of this. But despite it all, I am really hopeful for the future. I think, even the vibe in here today has been really focused on kind of what's next. I'll let Travis talk more. Sorry, I wasn't going to talk too much at the beginning. I get carried away.
Yeah, Thursday was rough. Lost a lot of good people, but friends, that's probably the hardest part. People that you like. I mean, even in the playtest that we tried to run on Friday, just took 10 seconds to just everyone kind of remember who we lost. It was rough. I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but we saw your feedback all weekend, and that was rough to see sometimes. Like looking through Reddit, and I try to not look too much at streams and social media on Thursday, but I peeked in and watched throughout the weekend, and it's hard. It's hard to imagine what our friends are going through. But when I see all the feedback online, and just like what you posted, it's like you see that feedback, and it comes from a place where the passion and the anger and the sadness from the community is really like a testament to the community we've built and how much people care. And it's like, just like you said, the easiest thing to do would be just to, curl up in a ball and quit. But, the passion that we see from the community is what makes me want to keep, driving so hard to make the game amazing. So, that's what it is. It is a rough time, but that's what we want to kind of focus on as we start talking today, and we start to put together the plans for the upcoming releases, and try to really center around that core community that was the ones that were really lashing out and letting their emotions fly this weekend.
Yeah. And like Killgoon said, we're going to spend majority of the show today just answering your questions, just because you all have a lot. But we do have just a short housekeeping bit that we wanted to go through, because Open Beta 3 did launch this morning.
And I will say, like, before the show started, I saw in chat someone saying like they're going to dodge all the hard questions. They don't really want to talk about it, right? Like, no, we wouldn't be here doing a live Q&A show 3 days later if we didn't want to talk about it, right? Like, we understand that you have questions, you have concerns, and we want to answer your questions. We probably won't be able to answer everybody's questions like everybody's Titans Talks, but we're going to try and pick out questions related to this as much as we can. I'm not going to, go for the, what about the wandering market questions, right? Like the point of this is to talk about what happened and how we're moving forward. As a transition, we did ship an update today, right?
We did.
We're still on schedule as of right now for our one new God a week. And there was a lot of other features in this update that we didn't talk about before it shipped that are kind of interesting, and we're going to run through real quick. We're going to spend a lot of time on it, but I think it's worth calling out the good work that the team has done to make OB3 happen and to ship it today, because it's a good update. We got a lot of good stuff happening.
Cool. Well, I will bring up the laptop really quick. These notes are also live on smite2.com if anyone hasn't had a chance to check them out. But Open Beta 3, we had some new cross-gen and classic skins hit the battleground today. Lord Slashington Fenrir, Frosted Fury Thor, Dark Supreme Nuwa, Nurse Nightmare Izanami, and Bunny Babe Nuwa. The Wandering Market also launched today. So if you're interested in earning any of the cool cosmetics as a part of the first collection, it is there for you. Under gameplay, just some Smite parody things that went live today. Just changed the way that Titans and Phoenixes interacted with players in terms of targeting. They should match much more closely to the way that they work in Smite 1 and Smite 2 now.
Yes, and the like Titans getting sucked towards like on her pillar and other walls was a particularly abusable, annoying one. So I think it's good that we got that one cleaned up. Also, like the size of their AoE cleave means that like it's harder for a Titan to stop the Winions, you know? So again, it's just trying to make it more balanced, more interesting.
Yeah. Also made a change to range minions. Archers will now attempt to move closer to the enemy Titan when attacking it, just kind of in line with Smite 1. Under general, just a few things that went live with this update. We added an unequip button to the God loadout page. So if
people have been asking for that for a long time.
Accidentally equip a tracker and you didn't want it, you now have the ability to unequip that. We added a widget in the profile screen that shows all the different types of currencies that you may own. That way you can see everything at a glance. You can now enter practice with selected skins in the Gods collection menu. So if you're interested in trying out a skin before you pick it up, you're able to do that now. We added contextual ping through VGS in the minimap, so you can hold Alt on keyboard and mouse or hold the VGS button on controller to ping inside the game world. We raised the ranked level requirement to level 10 based off of player feedback. Also based on player feedback, we decreased the pause duration time from 3 minutes to 1 minute. This does not affect custom matches, though. It's still indefinite there. And then we also added a your turn to pick audio and alt-tabbed pop-up image in Ranked Conquest Draft Lobby, just to make it super clear that, hey, you're in Ranked, it's your turn to pick, even if you maybe toggle it out. Under game modes, just made some changes to jungle bosses here, kind of messing with their TTK a little bit based off of player feedback, and that's something that the environment designers are going to be looking at going forward. Just some changes to Joust and Duel in terms of the Lost Knight and the Phoenixes.
Yeah, one of the big ones for Duel is that we can disable items by game mode now. So that tech allowed us to disable Lifebinder, which is a fine item in every other mode, but just kind of breaks the duel mode. So good little fix, I think.
For Arena, we smoothed out some collision around the base walls and also improved camera collision behind the bases. And then last up for game modes, we disabled Amanita Charm and Assault, just because really strong item.
How am I supposed to have a 90% win rate in Assault going forward?
Yeah, it's gonna be rough. But outside of that, everything else in the patch notes is all the balance and stuff that we've talked about previously. So if you want to head over to smite2.com and check out the full patch notes, you are more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, and reminder that Rama comes out today, Achilles comes out next week, and then we will have another patch with another god, right? I believe the next one is Artemis and then Awelish.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get confused about the order. We played both of them this morning. Awelish actually has a whole new visual redesign too, which I don't think we've shown yet.
No, yeah.
So definitely, we're grinding away.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about like kind of what our focus is, like for like as we're grinding away, or and then we can
start taking questions.
Yes.
I think so. First, let's touch on though that Rom being live today. That was Lermy's god. Hearts to Lermy in the chat. Appreciate all your hard work, and hopefully Rom is doing Smite 2 some justice from your behalf. And then Achilles, I think was Ro. And so as we get Achilles next week, shout outs to Ro. So the focus, this week we're having to, pick up some pieces and trying to put together a good plan for how we move forward. Just like Alex said, I think we probably were playing 8 gods today in the playtests that aren't live. So we are still making some pretty good progress on those characters. But the focus primarily going forward is going to be, as we've had meetings the last couple of days about our core players and who we feel like we need to be focused on in the next couple of months, especially. And around October, we kind of made this same commitment where we wanted to make sure that everything we were doing in the game was geared towards the core players. That's really everyone that's in this chat watching this Titan Talk, it's the most engaged content creators. We want to make sure that we're making a game that they love, because it's not worth talking about, bringing necessarily in a ton of new players if the core doesn't believe that the game is in a great spot. Mm-hmm. So since October, we committed primarily to them, and we kind of made sure that we service them with the God migrations and get the game in a great spot.
I would say the core gameplay, right? Because that's the thing that matters the most to hardcore people that love Smite 1, right? Because they already have gone through the learning cliff needed to enjoy Smite, and they're judging Smite 2 more against Smite 1 than against other like current games, right? So certain things that feel like a huge improvement from Smite 1, maybe like compared against other games are not quite at that level yet. Yeah. We know we need to get there, but that just hasn't been the focus yet.
Yeah, that's right. And so we want to make sure that, as we move forward, the plan makes sure that we service the core players. And, secondarily, we want to make sure that the core players have some things that they are allowed to, get them some of the skins that they're wanting into the game. The wandering market coming live now. It's like give the core players, a way to, find, help support the game that they want to stay alive. And like in this time where we're having to make these, cuts, we're not, to be honest, we're not even giving the players an opportunity to even try to support us. So, So we do want to make sure that we're also trying to get some of those types of things in that we've largely not, focused on in the last 4 months. So we want to make sure we're doing that. Then the next thing that we want to do is make sure that we're still giving the core players the systems that they are missing and that they really want to focus on. And as we're building out the systems, we want to make sure that core players are the defining group that we're building them for. And then secondarily, if any features could help new players as well, then it's core players and new players is what the focus would be on first. After everything. If it's anything that's on the schedule that doesn't service those two groups, we're removing from the schedule as we're going forward. So we're going to spend this week reevaluating our schedule and reprioritizing things based on that, and we'll get that built out to really, help improve this, the base core of the game before we start to really then the fourth bullet is to focus on new players, get them into the game only after we've kind of strengthened the foundation.
Awesome.
I think we just open up the floor for questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
I've got YouTube chat up on the laptop as well. I know somebody was asking about that. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you're more than welcome to ask questions as well.
Yeah, Travis and I cannot see YouTube chat, so Isiah will have to be picking up the questions from YouTube, but we will just kind of answer things. Yeah.
I think I did see one question about the God frequency going forward.
Yeah.
Over the next couple of months, you can expect to still see, I think, like I said, like we had Achilles next week, and then we have Artemis I think is the next one after that, and Wheelish, and then
Bari.
And then Bari. We are going to be committed to those. We know that we're going to want to release those on that same cadence. How we spend this week and evaluating where do we want to spend the majority of our time on God migrations versus, classic skins versus cross-gen versus those types of things really is going to help us define the content release plan that we're going to go forward with. But for now, you can expect at least that, and and then we'll share with you as soon as we have the rest figured out.
Yeah. So essentially, we're going to keep doing one God a week as long as we can, right? But then almost certainly it'll go to like a God every 2 weeks at some point in the future. There's a lot of people asking us to focus more on skins. We need funds and people want to help. I think, we definitely are having those conversations internally. I think part of what people are upset about too is, there aren't enough classic skins, right? And some people that are in this chat have a ton of diamonds that they can of legacy gems that they can just get all of those, right? And that's kind of okay, because there's also a lot of people that don't have that many legacy gems. So we're talking about how we can get more classic skins over, how we can make sure we have kind of a regular cadence of skins, but just kind of what the right balance is, right? Because if we just dropped new skins that you couldn't get with your legacy gems, then that wouldn't be fulfilling the commitment to you guys that we made. So we're trying to figure out like, how do we do both? And how do we also get the cross-gen skins that we're missing, right? You know, we stopped all skin production for a little while, and you know, one of the biggest like support tickets we get right now is, where is this cross-gen skin that I already bought, right? And that sucks, and we need to get those in the game. So yeah, there's it's something that we're thinking about. We also our UI team, you know, it's been hard, but everybody's really just like jumped in and been like, okay, well, how do we solve things? How do we make things better? And in an afternoon, a person on our UI team threw together a very simple single page store. So we can actually have kind of like a featured, here's the new stuff store page. So that'll be coming relatively soon. Like, you know, I think internally we're definitely putting a little bit more focus on that. Not that we're going to go too hard on it, because we know that we still need to release gods really regularly. We know that there's other in-game features we need, but we are definitely putting a little more focus on it.
Yeah, I see several questions across YouTube and Twitch, all kind of towards the same tune. So I'm just gonna choose one, and we can talk about it. But it's how can we feel any good about investing time and money into the future? It seems like the pattern is that Smite does well, then we get blindsided, and things seem to get worse on the corporate side of things.
I think this is probably not the right answer, but nobody's future is guaranteed. Right? Not to be morbid, but like, I could get into a car crash and die on the way home, right? Like, in life.
No, you're not. You can't.
No, but I'm just saying, like, the way that I have always lived my life as a gamer is I play whatever game I am having the most fun playing right now. And I think most people live their lives in the same way. We are very fortunate that a lot of people think Smite is the most fun game that you can play. There's a lot of people in chat today because they believe that. There's a lot of people who've been playing this game for a decade, just like me, because they believe that. I'll go play another game for a little bit, but I always come back to Smite, right? And I think that we have this amazing core community that loves Smite above all else. And as long as that community is around, I think that Smite will continue to have a life, right? Like all things, you know, it will ebb and flow over time, right? I would almost guarantee there will be another great time in the future, and there will be another, oh my God, everything's over time in the future, right? I mean, even if you look at a game like Counter-Strike, right? Like when Counter-Strike first switched to CSGO, it was like dead, you know, because everybody was like, oh no, it's not as good as Counter-Strike Source, which isn't as good as CS 1.6. And then, you know, it took a while, but they ended up back on their feet once they got things going. I'm not saying that we're going to be Counter-Strike. Like, we're obviously, Smite is inherently a little bit of a more niche game than Counter-Strike could ever be, but play what you have fun playing, and don't worry so much about what people are saying, as long as you're having fun, right? I play a lot of old dumb games that nobody likes anymore because I like them, and I'm having fun, and that's life. So that's I don't know if that's the right answer or not, but that's the way I would answer that.
Yeah, I think it's fair. It's like every game that I play, I play the game because it's fun. I'm arguably I'm not in the communities of all the games that I do play, but I play what I think is fun, and as long as we keep committed to creating a fun game and that feels great to play, then I think we'll be okay.
Yep. Let's see. So I'm trying to not pick actual gameplay questions today.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I'm writing down the notes for, like, can we get ult cooldown on VVVD? Can we get 2x worshippers in arena? I swear that was fixed, but maybe not. Yeah. So I'm sitting here writing down bugs like crazy. Yeah. So
so I can answer this one. Why were the layoffs necessary? At the end of the day, we are a business, right? And we are not necessarily here because this is the single best place on the planet for our investors to be making money, but we need to at least not be losing money. And we invested a lot of money into the development of Smite 2, and we have been spending more than we have been bringing in for quite some time. We reached the point where we had a lot of hope going into free to play that we would re-engage a lot of lapsed Smite players, that we would potentially get a new audience of people that are willing to try the new free to play game. And our projections were very, I would say, realistic. I don't think that we were, we weren't saying the game was going to be Fortnite or anything, right? I think we had pretty realistic projections. And though we exceeded them in certain ways, we actually did a better job bringing over Smite 1 players than we thought we were going to, like current Smite 1 players. People that are over are playing more than we thought they were going to play. The general sentiment among people that like the game is higher than we thought it was going to be, probably. But unfortunately, for the truly new players that came into the game, they didn't really stick around very well. And a lot of the people and there weren't very many of them, to be clear. And also, we didn't get as many old people or old Smite players to come back and try Smite 2 yet as we had hoped. We still think that there's opportunity for this in the future, and I can talk a little bit more about that in a second. But when those numbers didn't pan out, it pretty quickly became clear that if we did nothing, we would risk everything. If we just continued on our current path with our with our previous staffing levels and our previous expenses, we would run out of money at some point. I'm not going to say exactly when, but we would run out of money at some point, and we would not be able to keep Smite going. So this move, as again counterintuitive as it may seem, was needed to get our costs down to where they were in line with how much money we're making, so that we can keep doing this for the foreseeable future, so that we have more time to keep making the game better. We'll have to do it with a smaller team, which sucks, but this secures more of a future for Smite than we would have potentially had if we had just bet the house on keeping everybody and, try and turn the numbers around, which, is incredibly hard to do. I think, like I said, I think there's a lot of room to improve the numbers, right? I think there's a lot of room, but I think that to risk everything on that hope would have been irresponsible, not just for us, but also for the community that loves playing this game. Has Hi-Rez talked to investors? I can't comment much on that. Over the years, we've of course had several comments with a lot of people that have had interest in various things. The way the market is right now, it's hard to get investors in gaming projects in general. That doesn't mean that it's not something that could theoretically happen, but I don't have anything beyond that I can say. Let's see.
I saw a question about optimization of the game on PS5. That is interesting. I was doing some research on the different platforms and all the different threads. Game thread specifically, for some reason, is running 3 milliseconds higher than Xbox Series X and a PC. Obviously, PC is widely variable, but I did notice that, and it's something that we are going to dig into to make sure that that's the highest. Basically, because the game thread's high on the PS5, for some reason, it does limit their frame rate based on the highest cost thread. And so, because game thread is high on PS5, if we can solve that, it'll help improve performance across the board on PS5. So we're going to be looking into that.
I've seen a couple people ask Killgoon. I'm not sure if you have anything that you could share regarding esports updates.
I don't have any updates at this time, but sometime soon. I think that was kind of one of the last pieces that kind of needed to come together as part of this whole thing. So I'm sorry, but we will give updates as soon as we can. I did see one that I kind of do want to respond to because I feel bad about it. Some people felt like it was very insensitive that we had Lermy on Titan Talk the day before the layoffs when she ended up being affected. I will say, yeah, in retrospect, probably shouldn't have done that. I think just to kind of talk through how it happened, Isiah books people that are going to show up on the show and gets it straightened out. He didn't know the extent of the layoffs and that Lermy was included. So it was kind of one of those weird situations where how do you uninvite somebody without making them be more worried about their future? And I thought at the time that the best thing was to let it just continue on. I fully understand that, pretty shitty move in retrospect. I don't know the best way to handle that, but I definitely will take responsibility for leaving her on the show knowing what was going to happen. So I'm sorry to Lermy if she's watching. I'm sorry to anybody else who took that the wrong way. I saw another couple questions saying, are you going to turn off the Smite 1 servers? No, not at this time. Even with the reduced player base, I believe Smite 1 is bringing in enough money to pay for the servers and keep the lights on. And even if it didn't, we would probably keep the servers on for longer. So no intent to shut down the Smite 1 servers at this point. There's a lot of questions about what's our average player count from all platforms and how many players are we expecting and stuff. Players is one of those things that we can't really talk about just because it's company numbers stuff. But we've said publicly before that console is between 66% and 50% roughly of our player base, and that's directionally true, right? It's it's between a half to 2/3 depending on the month and the what's going on in the games and if it appeals more to a certain audience. I think that as a person who's played a lot of Smite 1 on console, I think that there's a lot of work that we need to do to make Smite 2 a better console experience. I think the item store in particular just has a ton of clunk on console, where it's after you buy something, you oftentimes have to go back. One of the things in using an item store on console that I think is crucial, which is crucial for PC too, is and I think one of the big reasons why people don't like our current system of having components that build into a tier 3 instead of having tier 1, tier 2 is because it used to be in your inventory, you could click on the thing that you were building and instantly get to the thing you were trying to build. And that's hugely important on console. And currently in Smite 2, you click on it, it takes you to that component. And then it's oh shit, I got to find the tier 3 I was building again. So we need to make the item remember what it was building into. And when you click on it, pull up that tier 3 grid. And I think that'll solve a lot of problems that people have with the item store across both sides. And people are talking about custom builds. Yeah, dude, custom builds is one of the big UI features that is still on our radar that we're trying to figure out how we prioritize because we know that's a big one for people. Another one, it's there's just so much item store clunk on console. If you buy one of the few things that does send your cursor back to the left grid is if you buy a consumable, which is one of the few times where you want it to stay in that grid so that you can buy multiple consumables. And then if you do buy a second consumable, it doesn't make any sound because it only makes a consumable for the first consumable in a stack. There's just so much shit that we got to fix. But the core gameplay feels really good, and that was our focus, which is why a lot of this item store stuff and whatnot hasn't been prioritized. But I think the console version can be better. I think the console version has a lot of potential to grow.
I've seen it a couple times in YouTube chat, but do we have a plan on how we're going to handle all the work that was being owned by people that were affected last week?
Yeah, that's the majority of the effort this week. Trying to find per department the holes that we're just we don't want to drop anything on the floor, so we're having to go through each department this week as we're making our plans, make sure that nothing's gonna skip. But we do know that we had a lot of things planned over the next 6 months, and now we have to evaluate which things are those actually the core players would like more. So we'll be readjusting things, and obviously we feel like our motto since October has been just always be patching, making sure that we're constantly giving players something new. Even daily, you'll see multiple patches. As a matter of fact, even this morning, we had a bug, and now that it's resolved, we had a bug where players were purchasing diamonds and getting double diamonds.
A lot of people got double diamonds this morning.
Yes.
Chris Dixon got double diamonds.
And we're not even going to fix that, but it's patched now, so don't think you're going to go and find double diamonds now. But it's like those types of things we're able to patch quickly. So we're, always be patching means that we want to constantly be working on getting the things that people want, like daily and weekly. Yep. The things that we think will move the needle the most. So like you're saying,
Yep.
God Builder, but we also have, some other interesting things that are kind of, HUD editor
Yep.
that we know people want, those types of things. And then for new players specifically, we know we have a lot of work to do to bring them on board. So we're looking at our new player experience, bot matches, making sure that we have a better landing place for people that are just trying out the game. We're going to try to squeeze those in as well as we move forward over the next few months.
I have 3 quick ones. Who's working on Bari now? I believe Pompon is now on Bari.
Yeah.
I missed this next one. Why didn't we wait to lay people off until we saw how much money the Wandering Market had made? This is a very fair question. This is something we've seen posted a lot. We ran the numbers, and because so many people have purchased the Founders Edition, or just log in every week or whatnot, we found that most of our engaged players already had enough currency to buy the Wandering Market sitting in their inventory. So it's highly unlikely that this first Wandering Market actually makes us much money. I think it's a really good system, regardless of how much money it makes us, because it gives you something to play for and more things to do, right? More things to grind for. And it's possible that it makes us a little bit more than we're forecasting, but it is the scale of money that it would need to make to justify, being able to keep the people is pretty. It was extremely, extremely, extremely unlikely that was going to happen. So it's a very fair question, but I think we felt pretty confident that it wasn't going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we definitely wanted to get into players' hands. The Wandering Market is definitely something that we believe in as the future of our monetization, but it's really a math problem, and we know how much currency players have. We know how many players are playing. We know what percentage can buy the Wandering Market outright. We know the percentage of players that will monetize once those things become available. You could literally come down to almost within $100.
Mm-hmm.
You could forecast what the first one would actually do. So based on that information, we know that the foundation of the future of Smite 2 monetization is the Wandering Market. We have to get it out there, but we were able to math what the numbers would be.
Mm-hmm. And Killgoon, do you have one more?
I did, but I lost it. I'm sorry. I took a note on something else that was a thing that we need to fix, but unrelated to the current conversation. I'm sorry. I'll go back to the bottom.
I've seen this one in chat a lot, but gosh, how was the question phrased? I'm not sure if you can speak to really any of it, Killgoon, but basically there's been a lot of discussion and rumors circulating in the community over the past weekend about potential acquisition of Hi-Rez or the Smite IP.
Yeah, there is, as far as I'm aware, there is nothing currently planned. It's possible that some discussions are happening at a level that I'm not privy to, but I would find that highly unlikely. For people that don't know, it's probably worth talking about our corporate structure just a tiny bit. So Hi-Rez, technically Hi-Rez Ventures is the name of the company, is technically kind of just like a parent company that owns studios. Previously, they owned several studios, and also Rally Here, which is a technology provider for the games industry that does multiplayer backends and does our multiplayer backend. Travis is the general manager of Titanforge, so he is in charge of the studio that is making Smite. And I am the executive producer of Smite. So in things where Travis is too busy to deal with them, I take over. So like the two of us are kind of the people that are in charge of Smite the game, beyond, what our funding is and what the company strategy is. So we're here because we're the people in charge at this point, right? I think if there was a layoff, if there was any opportunity to sell the company, we probably would have been made aware of it. So I do not expect that to happen.
This has come up a couple of times, but I think it's probably the same person. But when will we be releasing new gods? Every 2 months. Right now, we know with confidence that we want to ship Bari on schedule.
Yeah. So
The
God
next-
a week up until Bari, at least, I think is the current plan.
The next new god after that really comes down to, and as I see even the debate happening in the chat, it really comes down to prioritization of, do we want god migrations, or do we want cross-gen skins, or do we want new skins, or do we want wandering market? And and it's basically the balance of all those things, and then new gods, which take the significantly larger arc of work. It really comes down to we'll be making those plans this week, and we'll try to figure out the best cadence that services the core players, but also keeps the lights on. We know that we want to give players the opportunity to buy some stuff, so we want to make skins, but new gods just in general take the longest amount of time. So it's not like we want to stop new gods, but we have to find the right cadence that allows us to get those while also doing the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, and I will say, like, the slowest cadence that we're talking about internally is a god every 2 weeks, right? So still a very fast pace, still doing some amount of all new gods as well, but keeping that going. There are a few people asking, like, how we plan to bring in new players, or what the marketing plan is, right? I think realistically, the thing that we learned from free to play more than anything else is that the game isn't ready for new players. If you come into the game right now as a new player, you are almost certainly going to have a bad experience, because Smite is a game that is very difficult to get into, and we do not make that process easy enough, especially for gamers in 2025. We've seen a lot of people being like, "Oh, I love Marvel Rivals, right? I don't need to know anything. I click into the game, I'm shooting people, and I'm having a good time, right?" Whereas in Smite, it's much harder to just figure out what you're supposed to be doing at the very beginning. And also, like, one of the big things that isn't helping new players right now is, you guys are going to think this is really dumb, but one of the most important things for getting new players onboarded is having a really good bot experience. And, like, Marvel Rivals will, if you lose a game against real people, they'll have you play bots again, so you get a win and you feel good about yourself, right? In Smite 1, you only play bots up until level 5, and there's a whole, like, progression system about, like, once you get to a certain point, you start playing harder bots, and if you lose, then you start playing easier bots. And right now, we just kind of have bots that are not great. And people are like, "No bots, please." For new players, it's very important. We don't intend to make, like, hardcore people that are level 40 play bots, right? That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, like, if you're an all new player, we need to be able to, like, retain that player. We need to show you what makes Smite amazing, like we all know it is, or else we're wasting money bringing in new players. As a free to play game, we are blessed that we get a certain number of new players for free every day. All of our games have done this forever, right? And the number one thing to getting new players in is just to kind of start to turn those metrics around to where when these new players that just come into the game because they think it looks interesting, actually think it's interesting and keep playing, then that's the first step. And that starts to show us that then we're justified to spend money to go find new players. In terms of, like, what are we doing in the game to get new players? Like, I think that we see that new gods are always a big opportunity to bring new people into the game. We find that events are ways to bring new people into the game. We have some partnerships that we do with the platforms, including a potentially very interesting one that I can't talk about yet. But we're still doing things to bring people in. And the key for us is making sure that when they do get in, they have a good time. Because right now they're not. And dude, like, what was the number that you pulled? There was a bug the first weekend where the bots were, again, you guys think the bots are garbage, right? The bots were beating new players 80% of the time.
Yes.
80% of the time.
Yeah. And I think that, that was obviously a bug, but that's the average bots.
Yeah.
Right? And so we obviously had to do a lot of work because that's the only bot matches you could play right now.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of work to bring the bots way down. I mean, I was basically playing the arena tutorial, and I was face punch a mirror, and I mean I went 30-3 or whatever, just just
because you know the game.
brag. But on her was beadsing the same frame that I was stunning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, this is supposed to be the easiest intro into the game, and they were using relics. Yeah. And it was just, yeah. So we made a lot of changes. Now that we even labeled them easy, so that new players coming in understand it's easy, and then you guys that are playing the game all the time, you already know that they're easy. But the goal is to then create now some mediums and hards. Mm-hmm. Some of these bots, the medium and hard bots, are actually crazy. Mm-hmm. Like I tried to play against I think Chalk was 18-3 in an arena match, and he was just dunking my team the entire time. So I'm looking forward to that, because anecdotally my son really loved to play Overwatch 2, or I think at the time he was Overwatch, but anyway, he spent 2 months playing that game only against bots. I had no idea. And then he came 2 months later, and he's like 16, 17. He was like, he just didn't have the confidence to play. So that's what I want to make sure, that we are giving players a way to play the game, that they can get 2 months of confidence before they go and play their first PvP match if they want to. Right now, I mean, you play against the bots a couple times, and you're like, okay, it's only so much fun to kill them over and over again. So we're going to be focused on that.
There's a question that got timed out because it's too long, but I'm going to answer it because I think that it's actually a very astute question, because I've seen a lot of people asking variations of this on Twitter and on Reddit. But like, what changed from the plan that led us here? Like, financially, were we doomed to end up here basically because we were only shipping gods and we weren't shipping any skins, and the plan wasn't to monetize until after January? So it's hard to believe that we didn't know that this was coming back in the fall. Yeah. At this phase in the game's life, the vast majority of the revenue that comes in should be coming in from people buying the Founders Editions. New players, returning players, especially because like you get more than $30 worth of currency back from it, right? So in every game that we've ever put out, right, at the very beginning, that's where most of the revenue comes from. Yeah. So really the thing that led to this was not hitting the player number projections that we were forecasting, particularly along returning players and new players. And again, the existing players moved over and are playing the game more than we expected they would, right? They're really loving it. And to us, that tells us that we have a good product that just needs a little bit more time in the oven, right? Which I think goes to another question that people have been asking, which is, do you think you killed Smite 1 too early? Some variation of this has been asked a lot. I think that is a very fair question. And I think that all you can do as a human being is say, given the knowledge I had at that point in time, did I make the best decision that I could? And at that point in time, we're only a certain size of a team, right? We weren't going to get a lot more people no matter what we did, right? So the options were kind of to go really, really slowly on Smite 2. So by the time it finally got done, it might be 6 years from now, right? And we were consistently getting further and further behind with more gods and skins coming to Smite 1. To stop updating Smite 1 nearly as frequently without telling people why we were doing it, or to just not do the Smite 2 project at all, which I think we believed in and we still believe in, because Smite 1 it's kind of like we've said it before, it's kind of a technological dead end, right? It's stuck on UE3. There's a lot of just kind of core issues with it that we can't even like hire people to fix anymore because it's so old. And I think that like also just like no matter what we do for UE3, it's gonna look and feel like a UE3 game. And there was no path to get it onto modern consoles, which is another huge part of this that most of the community doesn't ever talk about. But like getting it running natively on the new consoles is very important for like visibility and players being willing to give it a chance and treating it as like a current game. So for those reasons and a lot more, we felt like making Smite 2 was the right answer. So then the question was just, what's the best way to make that transition? And at the time, we felt like the best thing to do was to say, we need to get Smite 2 going. The only way we can do it and have the community not just completely be like they're checked out on the Smite franchise is to say, you know, we're going to slow down on Smite 1. We're going to announce Smite 2 probably earlier than we want to. And we're going to kind of develop this game in public. And I think developing it in public there's been a lot of pros that have come out of it, but there's also been a lot of challenges that come out of it because, you know, when we first talked about it, I think people thought it was a lot further along than it was. And I will own that, you know, I'm the one who wrote that script. I guess I did not make it clear enough that it was still early. And I should have said it 20 more times in that script. So anyway,
I mean, it was a true alpha.
It was a true alpha. Yeah, we did have that damn video. But no, like we did, it's at the time, it felt like we were making the right decision. And as I look back, if I try and put myself back in my headspace at that point in time, knowing just what I knew then, I think I would have made the same decision because the promise of Smite 2, I still believe far exceeds what we would have gained by having Smite 1 limp along for a few years before we announced it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think bringing Smite 2 to the players early helped us make sure that we were focused on the right things. We could have done any number of things, especially like in October when we pivoted the last time. We could have focused on new players, right? We could have focused on skin content. We could have focused on making the gameplay, the core of the gameplay better. If we'd have done all three of those things, I think we would have, you know, been in a worse spot, honestly. If we didn't, you know, focus on the core of the game, then, you know, who would be here? The core players needed a better foundation for the game.
Yeah.
If it, you know, so I think it's just, you know, natural that we're at the point now where we now need to pivot a little bit. The core of the game is in a good spot. Now we need to think about new players. Now we need to think about monetization or skins and get those things in the game. But without doing that pivot, you know, for the last 4 months, I think we would have just been in a worse position, honestly.
I'm going to very quickly say, Scarlett, I see your Mudang comment, and no.
And no. All right, well, show of hands. Who wants a Mudang skin in Smite 2? Yeah, see, I'm not seeing any. I'm not seeing any action here. So,
Oh no.
Oh.
Yes, maybe Scarlett did have a good idea.
Okay.
Fine.
No, there's a thumbs down. So it's clear everyone's saying no. So.
The only real question I saw during this Mudang spam is, how is Killgoon Jr. doing? My son's doing great. He's a month old now, and you know, just doing baby things.
I can attest. Like Alice sits next to me, and I see some new picture every day. So he's doing great.
Yeah, he's looking good.
He just chuckles every once in a while. I look over and he's got a picture up on his screen.
Yeah, my wife sends me pictures on Discord all day.
Cup on the baby hat and as a baby's hat, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
If I was not concerned about sharing my children's pictures online, I would post some for y'all to see.
Yes.
Chibi skins are an interesting question for why haven't we brought over any chibi skins yet, is what I'm going to interpret that as. Chibi skins are all like tier 4 level skins. So any skin that like requires a new animation rig basically and new custom animations, every one of those is going to be like, I'm just going to throw a number out, this not the actual number, but like 4 or 5 other skins worth of work, right? So from our perspective, it's better to use like our rigging and animation resources right now on getting more gods in the game, and focusing on the skins that we bring over are skins that like more closely ride the rigs and are, more like what we used to call like tier 3s in Smite 1. Because we can technically, or theoretically, we can bring over a lot more of those more quickly. And we know that like one of the biggest comments we get is people wanting certain random skins from Smite 1. And we'd love to get as many of those over as we can. So we'd rather kind of move quickly and get a lot of those because there's a lot of fan favorite tier 3s. Super Chrono 64, I love that skin, but nobody bought it, sadly. I have an alt in Smite 1 that I won't say the name of it, but literally has only ever played Chronos. And if I don't get Chronos, I dodge. So, yeah.
But fortunately for you, like, you almost always can get Chronos.
Yeah, because nobody really wants to. But I can play him in any role almost. Anyway. Yeah, I am a toxic dev. I'm sorry. Let's see. I saw this from the Paladins community, and I used to work in Paladins for a while before I came over to Smite. So I started as a Smite fan before I worked for the company, and then I just worked for Paladins for a few years because they needed help. Is there any chance that we can get Paladins characters in Smite as skins at least? Historically, the two fan bases have kind of had like animosity towards each other, I would say, because everybody thinks that the other game is getting more of the Hi-Rez attention and funding than the other one. And it kind of has altered back and forth over the years who people think the favored son is. We did the one skin, the Fernando Ares, and it wasn't very popular. And I guess technically Grover is in both games. But like, I don't think there would be a lot of demand for that because from our data, not a lot of people kind of actively played both games. So I would say probably not, but I definitely have seen that request a lot. Let's see. Any good YouTube questions?
I'm scrolling through to see if I can find something here.
People are asking about Twitch drops. I think we were trying to get Twitch drops turned back on today, but it might be tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it might be tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think the plan is that we're going to drop Wandering Market
Wandering Market
coins. So it'd be another way to get Wandering Market coins. Even if you don't have time to play, you can build up a currency.
I see HUD editor a few times. Yes, that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we add to the game relatively soon. I think the biggest hurdle right now is just it seems silly, but we need to save your settings. Mm-hmm. Like right now, the HUD editor is working. It's just not being saved, so we just don't have it on. We're gonna do that, and then we're gonna have the just basic portions, like a phase 1 of the HUD editor. That if we only allowed people to move the mini map, we'd probably get 80% of the 90% of the people happy with that. But there's a lot that we can do, like thousands. The feature list of a HUD editor is really long. We'll get the kind of the minimum viable product out very soon.
I have 2 that I'm going to answer. I lost the one, darn it.
Yes, I made Zeus.
There's a question about like what sort of did we just like were the people that were let go just thrown on the street, or what did the company do for them? So everyone was given 60 days notice technically, but they are not expected to work those 60 days. They are being paid for the next 60 days, their normal salary, and they receive benefits actually slightly longer than 60 days because they go through the end of the month, the last month that they're being paid for. They're also receiving resume writing help. There is like some kind of like counseling services that we have. And I believe there's some job search services, but I don't really know the details about that. Our HR team would know more. So, there's no perfect solution in times like these, but, there was at least something for the people who were affected. And then the other thing, I will just say, like, again, there's kind of this, it's really easy to point the finger at the unknown higher up shadow powers, right? And, you know, there are, oh, we got an ad. Oh, chat is upset about the ads.
I ran them before we started.
Oh, no.
How long?
Yeah, do we know how long ads go?
Generally.
Should I just fill for a second?
Yeah.
Brutal. Well, I'm just gonna chill for a second.
Chill for a second.
Yeah.
I think it's probably like, I don't know, 30
3
seconds.
minutes.
3 minutes.
Oh, that's brutal.
1 minute, 6 seconds more, someone says.
Okay. Well, we'll just chill for another minute.
Yeah.
Sorry for people that got ads.
Apologies. I tried to run them on the wait screen, but I guess I didn't run enough.
Yeah. Favorite junglers. My favorite junglers in Smite 1 are Hunbots, which is probably my favorite jungler in Smite 2. Tsukiyomi and Bastet, I think would be my top three. Okay, I'm gonna say that chat is probably done with their ads right now. So, you know, there is a Hi-Rez level of overseeing the company, right? That has a board, that has, you know, a president, that has a CEO. But we are not there's not like a shadow cabal that is huge, that is, you know, some unknown people that are, you know, up there, right? Like, realistically, like, we are the people that are responsible for the day-to-day operations of, you know, Titan Forge and for the game going forward, which is why we're the people here today talking, right? And we're the people that are tasked with, you know, making things better, right? So that's why we're here.
Is it massive amounts of work to port tier 4 or 5 skins from Smite 1 to 2? It depends. You know, as we start to bring gods over and migrate gods over to Smite 2, if we're looking for +1s, right, we might change an ability. Changing an ability adds time to every skin that we want to port. But there's a base amount of time that really centers around animations and effects that takes a really long time to do those, because you have to rebuild those effects in Smite 2. And so, yes, the carry, the lift for Smite 1 to Smite 2 for tier 4 and 5 skins is much higher than others.
There's a question about again, not about the layoffs, but just the build, custom builds feature that you can share builds and whatnot. Yes, that's still on our roadmap. We're still kind of planning it out and figuring out the best way to approach it. But we are doing some early development work on it now.
Question from YouTube, just regarding esports and kind of where we're at with them now. The question is generally just like around Vegas, and was it not seen as a success, and was that kind of one of the reasons why the esports department was kind of affected in the way it was?
I will say that everyone at every level of the company said that Vegas was one of the best run, arguably the best run esports event we have ever done, that the team did an incredible job. There were no major issues. It was a great event, and everything was run really well in the run up to that event. So had absolutely no impact on the team or anything. Like, they did a great job with that. Realistically, when decisions like this are happening, every dollar is a dollar, right? And the decisions were made in a way to prioritize the continued development of the game above all else. And that led to some really hard decisions with a lot of great people. You know, like, publishing got pretty eviscerated. I think me and Isiah basically are publishing at this point. And at one point a few years ago, we had like 40 people in our publishing team, across all the games, not just on Smite. we basically like any like core development, positions were affected first. And then from there, it was like, how do we do the best we can with the money and the headcount that we have left to allocate? And everybody has their own opinion about what the right way to make those decisions were, but it was never an option of how do we keep more people. It was how do we, make the best future for Smite with the people that we can keep, which is hard and is a very tough conversation if you've never been a part of that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas was amazing. The show was amazing. Everyone that worked on the show, I mean, I would say that the Vegas tournament went better than expected, honestly.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to just, everything comes down to the number of players in the game. And when we went to free to play, we thought that, we had projected that we would have more players at this time. And we anticipated that we would have gotten a lot more players that have lapsed from Smite to give Smite 2 a try. And so because those numbers were lower, nothing to do with the Vegas event, it changes the trajectory. It changes the short-term outlook, and so we have to pivot to make sure that we can stay alive long enough to make make Smite 2 amazing and grow the game from where we are. So, the decisions that we had to make were not as a result of the esports event or Vegas or had any impact on that. It's just we need more new players into the game, and we need to retain the core players, and that's why we're gonna, that's why we're shifting our focus and making sure that we're servicing core players and then growing new players from there. It keeps coming back to that. That event was probably the best one that I think I've ever been a part of. It was so intimate. Like, I think I was talking to people nonstop, whereas before in other places and other venues, we wouldn't even have had an opportunity to talk with like the fans and the community and the players of the game. I think that that just shows that an event like that Vegas event and how it was run and the people that we had running it is just it's just the best one I think I've ever been a part of.
All right. Well, we are just a little bit past 2 p.m., so I want to do one more question.
Yeah, maybe not sing it today.
Yeah. And we'll get back to it.
And I will say, just kind of as we let a couple more questions come in, this is not the last Titan Talk, right? Isiah and I plan to keep these going. I think, we will continue to answer this kind of question. I assume that they will continue to come up for a long time, but we do want to try and focus more on, the game itself, because that's what we're all focused on at this point, right? Like, before we got on the call today, we spent 2 hours yelling about a playtest where there were some things that were not going the way that we wanted them to go. And we were trying to figure out how to fix the things that weren't good in the playtest this morning. And we're figuring out how to prioritize the workload. And I was supposed to talk to Max. I was supposed to be later today, but tomorrow, about some matchmaking things and some kind of like high level competitive ranked things. Like, we're back, like the team here is still hurting, but we're back in the grind of like, how do we make the game better? Because that's how we get through this, right? So again, we'll continue to answer these questions as they come up, but much rather answer game focused questions as much as we can after today.
Legal Flame of Valhalla stealing Smite assets.
Well,
my favorite stealing of Smite assets, by the way, was the raw America on the fireworks.
Fireworks, yeah. I think is
that
the
was
best.
That was actually
my
amazing.
favorite. Is we got a letter to the legal email one time with this guy who got a tattoo for, I think in like New Zealand or something, who got this huge Zeus tattoo, I think all over his back and like massive. And the tattoo artist had told him that he had come up with the drawing himself and that it was unique, but it was really like the Smite Zeus. And like, he wanted us to like sue the tattoo artist for stealing our work. Cause he's like, everywhere I go, people ask me if I'm a Smite fan, and I don't even know what this damn game is. I just wanted a Zeus tattoo. So yeah, that's the best theft of our art that I've heard of.
Question from YouTube. Do we think that the demand from players is too much in contributing to some of the shifts and some of the things that we've seen over the past week or so?
I don't know if too much is the right word, but the Smite player base knows what they want.
Yeah.
I will say, I think that when we first went into this project, we had thought the player base would be a little bit more open to re-examining some things as we went from Smite 1 to Smite 2. But we have been more constrained to Smite 1 parity than we thought we were going to be in this project. Like, our goal was always to make it like Smite 1-y, right? It wasn't like, let's make a completely different game. Like we, from the start, we were like, well, we don't want to do a game with verticality because that's not Smite, right? It won't feel like Smite. But, you know, even to the point where it's like the community, you know, still is like, we need 2 relics. It's like, you know, it's been months, guys. Like, it's a good system if you give it a try, we feel like. But a lot of people are still very like committed to the way things were in Smite 1, and if you change it at all, it's worse, and it won't be perceived as better, even if a new eyes look at it and think it's better, doesn't necessarily mean that it's better in the eyes of Smite 1 players.
Yeah, it's been a delicate balance. The core players want their Smite. You change it too much and you lose the core players without re-engaging another player, a player base, then you're kind of just not making a game for anyone, honestly, at that point. You know?
I'll answer this one. Will we change our porting policy for Smite 2, or will we continue with the characters while only making minor adjustments? Also, please give Guan Yu a sharp Guan Dao. I think I said that right. And our plan is still to focus on the +1s to existing characters' kits. Again, going back to kind of what I just said, like, if we change a character too drastically from Smite 1, we just get more negative feedback than positive feedback. So we would rather take the kit and figure out how we can evolve it through some additions rather than things that can be viewed as pure takeaways. Yeah. And then we're looking at the aspects as kind of an opportunity to provide more of a shift. And I think some of those are better than others, right? Like, we're still kind of figuring out the system, and we can always go back and change some of the earlier ones if we, you know, don't like them in the future. But I think that offers more of the like mix up to a character's gameplay that we can't necessarily do in the initial port. And then I will say, in the playtest yesterday, I did play Guan Yu. So
there you go.
But his ult doesn't have a horse, so he's just like in the air.
He's pretty early,
like,
but
just floating in the air.
Yeah, but I have played a lot of Guan Yu in Smite 1, and he you know, feels like an early rough version of Guan Yu, which is where he should feel right now.
I will say, Smite 2 Guan Yu won't be anywhere near as OP as Smite 1 Guan Yu.
You say that now,
a few
Travis.
things.
However, there have been a few Smite 2 gods that have destroyed Guan Yu's win percentage, and I'm not going to name the gods, but there's been a couple that put release Guan Yu and Smite 1 to shame. It's pretty bad. But yeah, Guan Yu, I can't wait.
And then Travis, do you want to pick up one more question, or you feel like you're good?
Spoiling the H god? No. No way. It's hard to keep up. HUD themes, those are stretch. Well, let's just say stretch goal. Yeah, it's hard to keep up with the chat. How do people do this?
Yeah, it's very difficult to do the show.
Yeah, I don't.
Cool. Okay. All right. Well,
Call it.
yeah, I think we will call it. but I guess I'll just kind of wrap up and say, we appreciate you all. I don't think there are many communities that would tune in 3 times a week for an hour to listen to us bullshit, right? Like, you guys are here all the time in good and bad. And we really appreciate your support, right? And I think that, like, the way that we approach development, when you think about a lot of games, you don't know the faces of the people that make those games. Maybe, one person, right? But, when something like this happens on a game where you know all the people and you feel like, maybe they're not your friends, but like, they're familiar faces at least, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it just makes it harder for a community. So we don't plan to change the way we interact with y'all, even if it does make it harder sometimes, because, we love you guys and we want to be part of the community too, right? But yeah, I will probably just keep meandering and bullshitting for forever. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting us. Inbound wants to know what Alani we have. It is this Cosmic Stardust today.
I have Cherry Twist.
Yes.
I'm back on the Alani train.
Yes.
I didn't know that I was supposed to get
that's
next
part of the
time,
show.
Travis.
Yeah.
We'll get you one.
But yeah, no, definitely appreciate you all very much.
And someone was asking about this sweatshirt. Oh my gosh, it is so comfortable.
Yeah.
It's like when I really want to just be super chill, I just put this on because it's like a comfort thing, It's like your blanket,
Right,
just curl up in a ball. Yeah, it's so good.
All right, well,
get one.
Killgoon, Travis, thanks so much for joining us today for Titan Talk. Chat, thanks so much for being here with us. I know it's been a rough couple days, but we're going to continue to, make the best Smite 2 that we possibly can. So
yeah,
we'll be back on Wednesday for another episode of Titan Talk.
Yes, Lamps and Qs, let us know what you think of Rama and Soul aspect, and there's another aspect. Amaterasu aspect. Yeah, lots of fun stuff. So check it out. We appreciate you guys. We're going to keep grinding. We're going to keep making the game great.
Yeah. All right, chat. Take care. We'll see y'all on Wednesday, 1 p.m. ET for the next edition of Titan Talk. Until then, take care of yourselves. See ya.
Thanks, y'all.